Hello, my name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and today what I want to do is talk about is criminal justice reform. This is in light of a topic that recently came up on reason.com discussing the fact that Bill de Blasio wants to raise cigarette taxes in New York City. This brought up the issue with Eric Garner's death over there in Staten Island. At the time I lived in Staten Island, I actually lived about 2 blocks away from where Eric Garner died. I used to actually go by that spot every day on the bus back from work. So I'm very familiar with the area. But my point is, the reason why libertarians bring up cigarette taxes with Eric Garner's death is because Eric Garner was being accosted by the police because he was being accused of selling loose cigarettes. Now, it's obvious that certain laws get enforced more tightly than others, and oftentimes tax laws get enforced more strictly because at the end of the day you're dealing with the government's revenue and they're going to take that very seriously since that funds all their operations. But what happened with Eric Garner is not to say that it wouldn't have happened absent of cigarette taxes, but cigarette taxes were the impetus of that particular incident, and taxes and other laws are the impetus for all sorts of incidents. The more taxes, the more laws, the more there is need for people to enforce those taxes and those laws, which means there's going to be more incidents where there is enforcement action. And the more enforcement actions there are, the higher probability of incidents where people lose their lives, where people lose their pets, as you've seen in many no-knock drug raids, where incidents happen. So the issue is, more taxes increase the probability of incidents. Okay, but that's not all there is. When it comes to criminal justice, the libertarian view on criminal justice is very robust, and it does address the issue of sort of systematic bias, because at the end of the day, the more enforcement you need, the more opportunities that gives for people to act on any biases, prejudices they may have, and use those as a gateway to act on those prejudices and biases. But it's not just the culture of law enforcement at the cop level. It goes into prosecutors. So oftentimes what happens is that prosecutors, they're trying to advance their career like everybody else. So what happens is that when they choose which cases they want to prosecute, they choose winnable cases. Winnable cases tends to be the cases where people don't have the legal firepower to fight back. So they end up prosecuting the poorest, the people who are maybe least likely to get empathy from the jury. So basically the people with the least amount of power systematically end up becoming the most overly prosecuted because it's easier to prosecute them, because prosecutors don't want losses because they can't advance if they lose cases. Now, a long time ago, there was a Supreme Court case called Stump v. Sporkman. If you're not familiar with the case, basically what happened is that a mother had her child, or wanted to have her child, basically sterilized, have her uterus removed. So what happened, or actually her fallopian tubes removed. So what happens is that in order to get it done, she takes her daughter to a court to get a court order from a judge to have her fallopian tubes removed. And the judge complies. The judge actually gives a order to have her fallopian tubes removed. And she was just told that she was having her appendix removed. So she just thought she was going in for a routine procedure. The girl was never told what was done to her. So then what happens is she grows up, she gets married, and then when she gets married, she finds out she can't bear children because her fallopian tubes were removed as a child because of the order of a judge at the behest of her mother. So it goes to the Supreme Court, and basically what the Supreme Court says is that there's nothing you can do. Basically, a judge can order your fallopian tubes be removed with no type of penalty, with no type of recourse. And what this does is this creates the ability for judges to do all sorts of things that without impunity. And while there's a level of that is needed because you want impartial judges, there has to be a line somewhere to make sure you don't have corrupt judges and abuse of that power. And this goes along the entire justice system, because that also leads to all sorts of corruption and leads to all sorts of abuse. That again, abuse oftentimes gets systematically used on the most powerless or the least powerful because they lack power. Now back to taxes for a moment. Now again, it's not just that there's increased taxes and increased rules lead to, more enforcement interactions, also leads to a much more demand for judges, lawyers, and cops. Problem is, there's only so many quality cops, quality judges, and quality lawyers. So the more you need, what happens is that you become more desperate for just another cop, another lawyer, another judge, that you start taking lower quality lawyers, lower quality judges, lower quality cops. And that can result in other abuses and result in a maximizing of those problems within the justice system, because you created such a need for personnel within the system that it's hard to staff it with quality personnel. So this is why we want to really have a serious discussion of which laws are necessary, which taxes are necessary. Because at the end of the day, if you have less laws, regulations, then you can have a much more affordable government, which means less taxes, which means you're going to have a lot less demand for lawyers, accountants, judges. And that way you can make sure that the lawyers, accountants, and judges you do have, or lawyers, judges, and police officers that you do have, are quality. But that's a difficult proposition now. And all these things contribute to all the negative ramifications you see here. And race is a part of it. Socioeconomic status is a part of it. Because that's where the lines of power and powerful, or powerless and powerful, get drawn. And the powerless are always going to feel the wrath of institutions of power. So in that case, if you want to protect the people who are powerless, you want to restrain power. And that's what government is. Government is power. So, and then power always gets used by the powerful. So if you want to restrain the abuse on those who lack power, you don't just try to fight to have control of the gun. Okay, speaking of the whole gun in the room metaphor, it's been popular and been in libertarian circles over the years. Because then all you're doing is you're just making a new class of people powerless and a new class of people powerful. You're just switching the abuses. What you need to do is get rid of the power, or decentralize the power. So that way there isn't this power, powerless, or there's a lot less of this power, powerless line to have abuse. So my name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com. Have a great day and enjoy.